What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Just got back from the credit union, picked up some more pennies. Gonna go through here, find the copper ones because it's like 2x on my money. So might as well do that. I'm gonna play you guys a clip by our beloved, legitimately elected president and real president of the United States. It's not like there's an actual president. This is the puppet president. Like this is, this is the guy. This is the real president of the United States. After Jerome Powell, because Jay Powell is probably the real president of the United States. That's the guy that runs the Federal Reserve, famous Rothbard, excuse me, Rothbard, I apologize for saying that, Rothschilds, where he says, I care not who makes the laws as long as I control the money. Essentially, he said it a little bit more eloquently. But the guy who really is the president of the United States is the guy that controls the US dollar. His name is Jay Powell. We call him Jay Powell. Jerome Powell. But we have this guy Biden, and Biden said this.
Inflation, guys? Do you think inflation is a political liability?
That's a great asset. More inflation. What a stupid son of a bitch.
And so yes, our fearless Chad leader, Mr. Joe Biden, well, he's just letting the can out. He's just, I forgot what I was saying. It's just getting pretty obvious at this point in time that the Western world is in decline. I mean, I hate to alarm you. Don't be alarmed. This is a really good thing for us. But, mask off, right? Like full mask off at this point in time where it's like, oh, and inflation's a great asset. More inflation. Now, he's not supposed to say that, right? Somebody said, Joe, don't say that. But he went out there and said that because that's the truth, right? And so as you're seeing this guy devolve, you're seeing like mask off situation. They're going to inflate the currency worthless. That's why one of these pennies, well, not all of them, but the 81s and older, 82s and older, are literally worth 3 cents, and the other ones are worth like a penny. So there's a couple things you can do here. You can get into metals because metals ratio, and it's early. It's early days to be in metals. They haven't gone anywhere. They're not sexy. You're not walking by the grocery store and seeing the little albums, like the little magazines they have there on the shelves as you're checking out. Where Time Magazine is running like a Bitcoin article or whatever, and you're like, oh, Bitcoin must be at a top. I told their 7-year-old this. I said, hey, Bitcoin's probably at a top. It's probably time to sell if we're into selling, which we don't. We hold. It was 64,000 that day. Probably time to sell. The metals are not there yet. Silver, gold, copper, they're not there yet. Nobody cares about copper. Oh, gold is a dead rock, right? It's an old relic. If you are buying more than $1,500 of metals or you want to, I will jump on a call with you and help coach you through that. If you're buying less than that, I would recommend JM Bullion. Just go to their site, JM Bullion, a local coin dealer, or I have a link below for SD Bullion. I use SD on like anything small. Like if I buy dimes or anything like that, I use SD Bullion. They have great prices. If I'm buying a larger quantity, it's going to be through Miles Franklin at this point in time. And I can help you guys out with that if that's something that you want to do. The other thing with metals is, besides being an inflation hedge, being anti-debt unit, being out of the system, is you can loan against them if you're using Brinks or any other company to store them for you. And it's always fully insured and all that other stuff. So if you are looking to remove yourself from the quote system, metals is a great way to do that. Crypto is also a great way to do that. I know a lot of people are still kind of not keen to crypto, which is fine. I mean, I love it, but I see both sides of the argument. I think that the most unloved thing at the moment is silver. It's literally 50% off of its 2011 high, and adjusted for inflation, well, the price of silver is very, very off of its 1980 high. Adjusted for inflation, in today's dollars, it went to $671 in 1980. Today, it's basically $24. You can get it with a premium. You can get it in your hand for less than $30. It's a freaking deal. It's almost 50% off of its 2011 high at that price, at that premium. It definitely is As far as the commodity metal, that's $24 an ounce. It definitely is off 50%. But nonetheless, I think that you've got to consider, how do you get away from this corrupt elite system run by baby boomers? and how does this game end? And it's going to be really good for younger people and people that see this coming, and people that are running to the safe havens. I mean, sure, things are going to be rough a couple years from now, a few years from now, a decade from now. Hopefully we're over this by then, but eventually the chickens are going to come home to roost. But at this point in time, metals are cheap. And as they go up in price, you can loan against them if you need to get any, quote, fiat currency. And the game is inflate. This is why I'm not on this stock market's going to crash thing. It's like the stock market is a derivative of the debt markets. The debt markets have never been better. They've just never been better. And I hate to say that, but we have a debt-based monetary system, and eventually it will no longer work, and we'll move over to what I deem a crypto-based system, even if we back it with metals and other things. But I just think that eventually the currency won't be centrally controlled by our United States government. I mean, it might work like that in China, but the United States has made a critical error, and that they have allowed citizens to own private forms of currency. And when their currency, the United States US dollar, continues to inflate, because they're literally printing like $1 trillion of this thing every 60 to 90 days, well, eventually people are going to realize what goes up in values. Metals and cryptos go up in value relative to the inflating US dollar. And so in my opinion, one of the best things that you can do at this point in time is just to get out of the US dollar, like in any way that you can. And if you can have, in your hand wealth, I'm a huge fan of that. And if you're spending more than $1,500 and you want to buy metals and you want somebody to help you walk through that process, I'm a dealer with Miles Franklin, and I would love to help. I would love to help you get into your first bit of metals there. I think I got in my first bit, I don't know, maybe 7 years ago, and it's become a habit. It's become the best habit I've ever built, actually, because it's been a form of wealth where I don't spend it. When I stack cash, or I stack cash in a bank account, digital dollars, or any of those other things, I tend to spend it. I tend to invest it because I'm an entrepreneur, and entrepreneurs are crazy in nature. And so I always find something where I'm like, oh, this would be a good investment, this piece of equipment, this machinery, whatever it may be. But with metals, I tend to just save them for that one day when inflation is a good thing, actually, ends up being, And at that point in time, I don't plan on selling my metals. I just plan on spending them, because I think that may catch us at this one unique period in human history where all asset prices fall quite substantially, and real monetary value, metals, maybe cryptos, they're speculative, but definitely metals, go up substantially. And so we end up in this beautiful situation where asset values fall and metal values rise, and at which point in time I will move out of my metal value and into cheap, underpriced assets. And then the cycle will start again, but for the duration of my lifetime and my children's lifetime, and possibly into my grandchildren's lifetime, we'll be good. We won't really have to think about it too much, based on literally just the silver plays I'm making this decade alone. Because if you're not aware of the silver market, it is a beautiful gift, absolutely beautiful gift, where the actual ratio of silver to gold is somewhere between 1 to 12 to 1 to 15. Sir Isaac Newton figured that out. Modern day scientists have confirmed that. But the mining ratio is 1 to 7, but they're selling at about 1 to 80, 1 to 70, which is amazing. Which basically tells you like silver is 10 times cheaper than the cost of like mining it, essentially. Not necessarily the cost of mining it, but relative to the mining supply. Silver is selling at a derivative price, the paper price, of 10 times cheaper. It's literally the only 10x investment that I know of that's a guaranteed within the fullness of time. Also, one dime of silver would have been a day's labor in the Roman times, or all the way up until like the 1800s, would have been a day's labor. And then today, we can buy that for $1.70, an entire day's labor, which would be about $150, $200 if you were paying somebody in that. And So I love how cheap it is. I mean, I could make a case. I could make a probably very strong case that it's 100 times undervalued. A lot of people will laugh at me at this point in time, with which I just say, like, I'll like, if these, you know, if this channel's still around in 2030, I'll be in the comments, because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be freaking right. And that's in today's spending dollars. I don't think that it's going to like $2,000 an ounce in today's dollars. No. I think it's going way higher than that. And people think I'm crazy. I don't know. I mean, I remember when my roommate sold the Bitcoin for $3, and I was like, for a beer. And I was like, Clark, this doesn't make sense. Like, there's 21 million Bitcoins, and you traded a Bitcoin for a beer. He's like, Trav, a Bitcoin's worth $3. I'm like, it has to be wrong. Like, this can't be right. I didn't know what I was looking at the time. But with silver, it's the same exact math. It's just more certain. And not as great of a play, though. $30 to $2,000, not as great of a play. But still a good play. Not as good as $3 to $65,000. Not as good. But, you know, still basically a supply and demand equation. There are 5 billion ounces of silver, and there is X amount of consumption of silver annually, and there is X amount that is being mined, and the mining ratio is under the rate of consumption. So that tells you that two things. People will consume less silver moving forward in the future, or price is going to rise. And I think the latter is more likely. So anyway, guys, thank you for liking, thank you for subscribing, and as always, until the next video, I'll see you down